What's up, Carnivore community? It's Joe with Chef Gone Carnivore. I just wanted to throw another video up here to talk about maybe some other options you have for steak besides just ribeye or New York strip that you find at the store, maybe a little bit cheaper. Today I'm just going to show you a really easy way to cook flank steak. If you've ever had fajitas at like a good Mexican food restaurant, they're either using skirt steak or flank steak, almost always. It's a very beefy cut. It has a great beef flavor because it's a muscle that works a lot. Because of that, you have really thick muscle fibers on the cut of meat, so it makes it kind of tough. But because it gets so much work, there's a lot of connective tissue, and you actually get a really nice flavor to it. Usually, if you're not being limited on what you're eating by diet, like those of us doing carnivore are, usually the flank steak is one you want to marinate. The acid in the marinade will help tenderize the steak a little bit, and the steak takes marinated really well. So like a little bit of citrus and chili and garlic go great with a flank steak or a skirt steak, especially if you're doing like fajitas or some sort of Mexican food. But for those of us on the carnivore diet who aren't eating those things, at least not yet, like me, I'm just doing salt. I'm not marinating it at all. However, if you know how to cook it and how to slice it, you can actually get a really nice cut of steak with just using salt on a flank steak. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is the easiest way to cook a flank steak and still have it be delicious. So there are ways you could use the sous vide machine or like a reverse sear using a low oven that I think could give you a little bit better results. They're a little bit more complicated, and we can do I'll do videos on both of those options for a flank steak later, but for now I just want to cover the easiest way to cook it, and that's going to be a really hot grill. Take it outside, a really hot grill, leaving it whole, and just getting a great sear and cooking it to medium rare. Now if you nail that cook, you get a good sear and you get it to a medium rare or maybe medium, and you slice it real thin across the grain, it's pretty tender and has good flavor. So let's talk about how to break it down, how to cook it, and how to slice it. Actually, I want to give it a little bit of a pat dry, get some of that juices out of it. This will help it sear a lot better. I generally want to leave some of this fat on. I know other people like to trim this stuff off, but the flank steak is actually very lean, so I think leaving a little bit of fat on it as much as you can on the surface here helps quite a bit. You'll also notice, look at these muscle fibers that run along the flank steak. They're very thick, very rope-like, and that leads this cut to be kind of tough. Normally for like fajitas or something like that, you would throw a marinade on this, citrus or vinegar, some sort of acid, and that this takes marinated really good. This and skirt steak, I think, are probably the two best. Skirt steak is often used in a similar fashion to this, but let's say flank steak's on sale, skirt steak isn't. This is a great cut, and this is what you usually see in like fajitas. Now, as far as seasoning this goes, because it's thin, like if you see how thin that is, I'm not going to layer this on super thick, not like I would a ribeye that's like an inch thick or whatever. It's pretty thin, so I don't need a huge thick pack of salt on this. Otherwise it'll be a little bit too much because there's a lot of surface area and not a lot of volume. So I'm being a little bit light with my salt, and you can always use some finishing salt afterwards if you didn't quite put enough on. So my suggestion would be a little bit light on the salt here because it's so thin. And then when it's cooked, you taste a piece and it needs some more salt, just throw some like fleur de sel or some sea salt or even just some more kosher salt on it to finish, and you should be good. So pretty light salt on here, just trying to put it on a little bit evenly. Now I don't want to let this sit at room temperature for too long because it's so thin. It's going to cook quickly on the grill, and so I want to get as much of a sear on this as possible before it gets too hot. So on a flank steak, I actually don't want it to get above medium. I would much rather have it closer to rare than closer to medium. I'm shooting for about a medium rare on this. But with this being so thin, especially on this side here, this side's a little bit thicker, it'll hit medium rare pretty quick on a grill. So I don't want this to be out for too long and get like close to room temperature, because it'll cook even quicker. And I won't have as much time to get a good sear on it. So I'm actually gonna pop this back in the fridge, you know, for a half hour or so, try to get it cold. You could also put it in the freezer for a little bit of time. You don't want it to freeze it through, but get the surface of the meat really cold. That gives you a little bit more time on the grill or in the pan. I'm just gonna throw it in the fridge while I get the grill heated up. All right, so I've been preheating my grill for about 5 minutes, about 400 degrees. So at this temperature, I like to just come in and I just give it a good brushing while it's real hot. And that stuff comes up real easy if the grill's hot. If I did this while it was cold, it would take a lot of scrubbing. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this back up. I'm gonna let this temperature get up to about 500 degrees or more before I throw my steak on there. All right, so I brought my flank steak out. You can see it's already been seasoned. I already dried it off. I just have it on some foil on a sheet tray. Once I put it on the grill, I'll get rid of this foil, and then this will be ready to throw the steak on when it's done. I'm looking at pretty close to 500 degrees here. So I'm gonna go ahead and say this is good to throw the meat on there. All right. Just like that, threw it on. This is my hottest part of my grill. So that's why I'm picking that one to throw it on. I wanna maintain that heat because I really want that to get a good sear, so I'm gonna close it. All right, it's been on about a minute or a minute and a half. And so now it's facing to 2 o'clock here. I want to switch it so that it's facing 4 down this way. And I'm actually going to rotate it this way here. So just like that. I'm going to push it down a little bit just to make sure there's a nice firm contact on the grill grates. And yeah, we'll flip it over here in another minute or 2. All right, that one about a minute later. I'm gonna go ahead and flip it all the way over. See, real nice color on that, nice sear. It didn't take too long. Now, the most important thing here is I do not want to overcook this steak. So, I've got a probe here. And I'm just gonna pop it in about right in the middle. And we're gonna keep an eye on the temperature just to make sure it doesn't get above 125. I'm gonna pull it at 125. That's what I'm looking for. All right, we are going to give it one more quarter turn. So because it's facing this way, I'm gonna flip it around so that it's facing this way here, just like this. All right, so just like that. Now keep in mind, my thermometer is a probe thermometer, so it can withstand really hot temperatures. If you're not sure about yours, don't leave it in this grill. Just temp it, take it out, temp it, take it out. This one I can leave in because it's the style of thermometer it is. But of course, if you just have like an instant read thermometer, just put it in the center. If it's not temp, pull it out and do it like that. Don't leave it in, obviously. Anyways, this is on its last turn, so right now we're just going to leave it until it hits 125. All right, so we've got the cooked flank steak here. I've let it rest about 12 minutes. I would suggest anywhere between 10 and 15. You really want those juices to redistribute back into the muscle before you start slicing it. Otherwise, your entire cutting board and counter will be covered in juice. So you'll notice the grain is going this way. So I want to slice across it like this. If I slice it this way, I'll have to chew through those real thick grain, the real thick muscle fibers, and it'll be very tough. So we are going to slice it like this. I'm just gonna slice one here so we can take a look at the doneness right down the middle. So right there, it's about a medium. Very juicy, beautiful. We're gonna go ahead and slice the rest of it and eat it. I'm excited. Want to keep these slices real thin. If you go too thick, it will be difficult to chew. But real thin, you can just pull apart nice and easy. You can see it's beautifully cooked. Slicing it nice and thin to keep it tender. All right, so I got it all sliced up. The salt level is perfect on this guy. Delicious. So I'm not gonna add any finishing salt like Florida South. If you under-seasoned it, try a piece, it needs a little bit of salt. Just hit it with a little bit of finishing salt and it'll be perfect. So that's the easiest way to cook flank steak. Hot grill, salt, good sear, perfectly cooked inside. Let me know if you try out the flank steak. Let me know if you think it is delicious or if you're having trouble with it. Later on we'll do some other videos that'll show other ways you could do this same steak. A little more complicated, but may give you a little bit better results. This is by far the simplest way to do it, and for me, it is delicious. So flank steak, bring it into your routine. If it's on sale, buy it. Give it a try. It's so simple and quick to cook. Just a hot grill, some salt, and it took maybe 5 minutes total to cook this steak, and it was ready to go.